best in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry Lutz. Hey, let's try to look beneath the surface of the numbers, the stock market. You know, after all, the stock market is just a number. And you know that numbers are always subject to manipulation and statistics. Well, we all know about statistics and, you know, the old saying, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's why we've got Woody O'Brien with us now. Woody, welcome back.
Hey, Kerry, great to be with you again after a couple of days down in the District of Criminals. Back to real life here, back at Promised Land Farm.
You say the District of Criminals. Would you be referring to the nation's capital?
Yeah, I would. I just spent 4 days down there, and I am more convinced than ever that the American way of life as we know it is doomed based on the indiscretions of people down there. It's a nice slice of unreality in American life if you live out in the countryside, or what the elites like to call flyover country, to get in and to see how people are living down there, packed in like sardines. It's quite telling. I mean, Georgetown and DuPont Circle are nice places to live, but I certainly wouldn't want to be there in a collapsed environment.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, hey, you know, you were referring before to the real estate prices, and it's one of those markets like New York City, like San Francisco, like Miami, where the money is just pouring in without any respect to a thing called intrinsic value, right?
Well, you know, it's funny, Kerry. I have a 28-acre farm and a 6,000 square foot mansion. And I was afraid to show the pictures to people down there who were paying more in rent than I pay in a mortgage, out of fear they might kill themselves.
Yeah.
if they knew what their money would buy, 90 miles away. But it is, well, it's like all things that are connected to money in the District of Columbia. It's based on a collective insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have to tell you, I was when I was down there, I always enjoy going into the Whole Foods down there and seeing their selection of potatoes. But when push comes to shove, Whole Foods down there won't have any potatoes, and I'll still have a shovel to go dig some out of the ground.
Yeah. And your harvest this year was a good harvest?
The vegetable harvest was pretty good. We still have some potatoes left to pull out, but we're happy and looking forward to next year and hopefully our first West Virginia legal hemp crop.
Yeah. What do you do with hemp exactly?
Well, the hemp hearts are really fantastic superfood. You can eat them, and then the stalks can be made into 25,000 different products, everything from concrete blocks to fuel, to rope, to paper. You name it, it can probably be made with hemp as a core base material. So we're excited to be a legal West Virginia hemp farmer next year.
And you can use hemp for the fibers too, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
Right?
The fibers, I mean, even the Declaration of Independence was on hemp fiber paper. There've been so many things. It's 25,000 total products that you can make from hemp. One of my favorites is the Dr. Bonner hemp soap. That was the guy, if you remember, locked himself in a gorilla cage in front of the White House a couple of years ago, and turned some hemp into hemp oil, which at the time was illegal to do in the United States. But hemp is a terrific product. It's one of those innovation products that if we can really get it mainstream in the American economy, it's something that could cause organic growth in the American economy, of which there is almost none now.
Yeah, we know that for sure. And the hemp fibers are much stronger than any other man-made fiber or natural fiber. So to use them for clothing, you'd have clothing that literally never wore out.
I don't know about never, but it would certainly take a long time. And to me, the most exciting part is that you can make fuel that will run a tractor or a car from hemp oil cheaper than you can produce gasoline. It's one of those issues of national insanity that we treat hemp like it is somehow a drug, when in fact, if you wanted to have a hemp joint, you'd need to smoke about 300 of them in order to get as much THC as you'd get out of a puff of a legal joint you would buy in Colorado. Yet the DEA in their permit process expects you to have, 10-foot fences and German shepherds around your hemp field. You say it's nuts because you can walk into any Whole Foods or most grocery stores in the country and buy a hemp granola bar or hemp seeds or hemp-based product now.
Yeah, I never quite understood why hemp was outlawed. It never quite made any sense.
Well, I think certainly, DuPont and Exxon have an interest in protecting their monopolies based on, other chemical processes that hemp would compete with. I mean, heck, Henry Ford made a hemp-based fiber car. So it's really unlimited. And the history of hemp in the U.S. is very, very interesting. There was actually laws in Minnesota that made it illegal for a farmer not to grow hemp back in the World War II period, because there are YouTube clips of Hemp for Victory of newsreel films from World War II where they were encouraging farmers in Kentucky, Wisconsin, and Michigan to grow hemp because it was so vital for the war effort. So we'll see what comes of it. I mean, it's a little better opportunity in the last farm bill for these experimental plots for hemp, but it really needs to become a mainstream product and push corn out of the way.
Yeah. Well, corn, wheat, all those grains are subsidized. And hey, maybe one day we'll see subsidized hemp.
And those grain markets are just as manipulated as the S&P 500 or gold or just about any other global market that you can name. There's lots of unorganic activity. And when people talk about JP Morgan's manipulation of the silver market, I would say if you think there's a lot of manipulation in silver, pull out some dry grain charts and ask how they can move the way they do without big banks involved.
Yeah, no doubt. And you combine that with the fact that they pay people not to grow these grains, and, huge tracts of land are just lying fallow, which could be, growing huge amounts of grain. I mean, the whole thing is messed up, and no free markets, and, prescription for disaster.
It's crazy. And, I think the most important thing that people who invest and watch markets should understand is that money moves markets. And if you don't believe that manipulation occurs, just look this month from October 20th, when the S&P 500 was in the low 1800s, and look where it is today, and ask yourself if anything fundamental in the economy has changed. And the answer is no. The only way that you could get markets to rebound with that amount of volume in that amount of speed is you have to have the Fed and the plunge protection team in there buying. You have to have CEOs upping their stock buyback programs, because the fundamental story of the stock market is bad, and it's starting to bleed through in places that are obvious. IBM has terrible numbers. Coca-Cola has terrible numbers. Walmart has terrible numbers. And now McDonald's numbers are so bad, and McDonald's is so desperate to try and rescue its crappy foods brand, and it's getting its ass beat so bad by Chipotle Mexican, who it used to own. It was a wholly owned subsidiary at one point in time, and McDonald's kicked it out. That McDonald's is actually talking about trying to up its organic game to serve organic food. So McDonald's is finally got to what I like to call is the Japanese rule, where the Japanese had a 20-year recession and they tried everything to stop it. And they finally tried Reaganomics because it was the only thing that was left. And at this point, the only thing McDonald's can try and do to rescue its crappy food brand is to try and pretend that it's interested in feeding America healthier stuff and kind of going to organic lettuce or maybe one organic hamburger. But the fundamental big news in the economy is big corporations, big blue chips are having declining revenue. And the only way they can show earnings growth is to be buying back their shares in an aggressive manner and shrinking the number of shares that are outstanding. Boy, if that is not the makings of a top, I don't know what is. Now, I will tell you, you had a great interview the other day with Andy Kaufman, who I really admire and really enjoy his work, where he's talking about this is the beginning of the end. And I think in general terms, he's probably right. But a rally like we've had in the past 6 days shows you that it may be the end may be very near, but the forces of darkness at the Fed and the president's plunge protection team, these are enormously talented financial criminals, and they have deadly weapons to try and arrest every decline that's in the face of bad economic news.
Yeah, they're not just going to roll over and play dead here. Let's face it. So you had some interesting comments on Coke and some other things. And when we return, we'll talk about them on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Worried about the coming dollar collapse? Then you need to speak to Tom Cloud today about buying gold and silver. It's the key to protecting your wealth from a declining dollar. Call him now at 800-247-2812. Tom will help you find the exact right bullion products to keep you safe. Would you believe that Tom's been in the business for 38 years? Tom understands these markets better than just about anybody. He's seen bull markets and he's seen bear markets, and he's not worried, and you shouldn't be either. When it comes to uncertain times like these, there's only one place to turn, and that's gold and silver. And Tom's offering all FSN listeners free shipping and insurance. So call Tom now at 800-247-2812. That's 800-247-2812, or visit cloudhardassets.com and tell him Kerry sent you.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And in case you just joined us, we're talking with Woody O'Brien, our gentleman farmer from West Virginia. And, he just had a great harvest, looking to get into hemp. So what about Coke? What's your take on Coke there?
Well, I think Coke and McDonald's have a similar trajectory, and they have it for the same reason, which is slowly but surely, Americans are waking up to the danger of crappy, dangerous sugar and grain-based food. For the past 5 years, the organic and local natural food has been the fastest growing category in every grocery store. And it really was just a matter of time until that trend, of a fraction of 1% of total becomes 1%, becomes 2%. I mean, the organic and healthy natural local foods are growing faster than any other sector of food. They're starting to, let's face it, Coca-Cola is in the business of selling you water that's coated with sugar. McDonald's is in the business of selling you, Frankenstein versions of a hamburger and potatoes. As the American public starts to think more healthy, that's going to cut into overall sales. And these companies are going to have to adapt their brands or deny. And for years, I've said, how stupid can the people who run Darden restaurants be that you can't go into an Olive Garden and have a gluten-free pasta or an organic pasta option, even if you're willing to pay for it. These food companies are run by people who, again, the Japanese rule applies. They'll do the right thing only when it's the last option available for them to try and save themselves. But I think overall, when you look at IBM, when you look at Walmart same-store sales, when you look at Coca-Cola, when you look at McDonald's, you can't have this argument that the economy is getting better, but top-line revenues and same-store sales are decreasing, because what that tells you is even though prices are going up, if sales are declining, what you really have is a much worse recession. And to me, I think there's great evidence in oil. Look at how weak the demand for oil is. The Saudis just cut production and the price still went down. If the economy really was strong globally, we'd be seeing higher copper prices. Dr. Copper would be predicting a growth, and we'd see higher oil prices. We'd see higher natural gas prices. We're not seeing any of that. So every time the government tells you inflation's 1 or 2% and the economy is growing, I would say, BS. If you live in New York, if you live in the DC area, if you live where there is fracking, out in the Dakotas, there's growth there, but it certainly isn't organic.
Yeah. And, where is the hope for the economy when the people who got us into this jam are, still getting their bonuses and they believe everything's fine, right? That the economy's doing great, at least from their jaundiced eye, right?
Well, absolutely. But I want to make this point. Since politicians are incapable of spending less, it was just in the news yesterday that U.S. government revenues have topped $3 trillion a year for the first time. That's an enormous amount of money. I remember when Reagan was president and the whole national debt topped $1 trillion for the first time. Now we're talking about spending $3 trillion per year that we know about. That doesn't count all the off-balance sheet stuff that's accruing. It's probably a much larger number. But given the fact that politicians are impossible to be disciplined, and the voting system really doesn't allow any real change, the only real hope for any real deficit reduction or any kind of a balanced budget depends on new technology. And I would take people back to the 1990s when AOL and Netscape, all these internet companies were coming about. I mean, Bill Clinton literally got us to a balanced budget, but not because of restraint of spending. It's because there was so much new technology coming down the pipe, producing so much revenue, the politicians couldn't spend it fast enough. And we have on the shelf in this country, we have new technologies just waiting to be ramped up. And I would tell you that the two are alternative energy and farming robots. We have a desperate need to get more technology out of these stupid mobile applications that people have on their phones that produce nothing. We need those brilliant minds trying to figure out how to get robots to grow vegetables and robots to grow healthy food and come up with new ways for alternative energy, because those are things that will create real jobs and create new companies that will be the next IBM, that will be the next Microsoft. We don't need another Facebook. What we need is something that will produce new food and new energy in new ways, because that's the only way you're ever going to get the tax revenue to grow out of these perpetual wars and perpetual holes that politicians throw money in. And I got to tell you, having just spent 4 days in the District of Columbia, it's appalling. You can't swing a dead cat down there without seeing the federal government wasting money on something ridiculous
and regulating it and everything else. And it was you were the one who said it. I've never heard anyone else say it. Where is the Steve Jobs of agriculture?
Absolutely.
You were the one who said it. So,
and I think a part of it is that's a cultural problem, because we have a lot of young people who think about this, well, I'll create some kind of mobile app. I had someone talk to me the other day, asked me to invest in a mobile app that you would press a button on your phone and it would tell you whether to wash your car that day based on what the weather forecast was. And I said, well, I could just look at the weather forecast and decide myself. I'm like, oh, well, we could make millions of dollars with that. That's a perfect example of someone who's only thinking about how I can produce something. Whether it produces any good for anybody else is irrelevant. That's a brain that needs to be working on farming robots or on alternative energy and not on something stupid. And there's an awful lot of technology that we can do that we just shouldn't do because it's completely unnecessary and completely stupid. But if it makes money, that will be the thing that attracts people.
Yeah.
And I will tell any young person, if you think there is something that you can devote your life to in information, technology, entertainment that will give you a better buzz than making a dent in the 10,000 people on this rock who starve to death every single day, whether you believe in the afterlife or not. Boy, I'll tell you, I wish I was that person who could even dent that by 500 people starving to death per day. But, I'm a financial geek and a farmer, not really the agricultural Steve Jobs. Boy, that's what we need.
Even if it's 5 people here, Woody, 5 people, that's close to 2,000 people a year. And that's meaningful, in my opinion.
Well, I have to tell you something. There's been a lot of articles lately, Kerry, about how much food is wasted in the U.S. and in the world. And when you look at the mathematics of feeding 21 billion or 7 billion people 21 billion meals a day, over the next 10 years and population getting to 8 billion and then to 9 billion. Farmers are very, very old. There's about 72 million farmers who do more than just feed themselves, or what we like to call export farmers. And you're literally at a point where there's 8 million new mouths to feed every single month. We've got to solve food waste. We've got to solve robotic technology and farming. And the reason is if we don't, those people are still coming. And we just don't have the capacity when the average farmer is 60 to think he's still going to be in the fields farming in 10 years. He's going to be retired or dead in most cases. These young people need to get their heads out of their phones, out of their pads, and figure out how to print calories somehow. Because if we don't get young people excited about agriculture in the next 3 years, those $10,000 or 10,000 person a day starving in the world is going to be 10,000 people starving in the U.S. in 10 years. Food is a catastrophic problem in the future that makes deficits in the stock market look like nothing.
No, you're so right. And there are schools that specialize in it. There's a lot of effort going into it, but certainly not enough. It's kind of taken for granted by 99% of the population. That's really the problem. As long as the food's on your table every day, then everything's fine. And until that changes, we're kind of left with complacency. And the rewards just aren't there. And
well, we can't eat money. We can't eat our iPhones. We can't eat our houses. I would say we can't eat gold. We can't eat silver. At the end of the day, the one thing that we all 7 billion of us have in common is this desire to eat 3 times a day. And when you look out into the future, that's something that's really in serious peril. And I think it does have a private sector solution. But again, I think the problem is the young people who are the brilliant minds that in technology, they're all focused on stuff that just doesn't matter. It's not going to matter at all in the end.
Exactly. So Woody, just tell us your newsletter, how we subscribe to that, your Facebook page, where we connect. The newsletter information is at woodyknowsmarkets.com. I also have a page about abolishing the Federal Reserve. That page is abolishfiatslavery.com. And I am the only Woody O'Brien on Facebook, although there is a Woody O'Brien's Irish Pub in Saginaw, Michigan. Not related to me at all, but you can go there and there's links to all my stuff from all those pages. All right. And we've got the links on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. As always, in the show notes to our interviews, you can always find our guests' websites there. Don't forget, sign up to our newsletter and take a look at the site while you're there, because we've got amazing articles from all over the place. Woody, thanks so much for coming on as always. And hey, we'll see what happens, because I think as the problem with food gets more and more apparent, more and more resources are going to be shifted over there of necessity. We really don't have a choice, but take care. Talk to you again soon. Be well.
Hey, Kerry, always great to be with you. I'm always here for you whenever you need me.
Great. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.